Ukuluk found himself lying on a cracked surface, grayed by clay when he woke up. It was cold and dry, and there was neither animal life nor vegetation as far as he could see. He used a moment to ponder if this was hail, but it was too empty, and even if the wind was cold, it wasn't icy. A salty taste lingered on his tongue, and his body felt stiff as if he'd been lying there for hours. Getting up, he looked for his friends. There was only him, the grey ground, and a thick white cover of clouds where the sky should have been. Like a fog, it seemed to be pressing down on him, giving him a slightly claustrophobic feeling. Discomfort grew in the demon's soul the longer he was exposed to the void-like realm. "Wilper?" His voice echoed through the barren landscape. Nothing answered. He called Luther's name only to get the same response. For hours he walked through the desert with nothing but the cracked surface beneath his feet. The wind never changed nor faltered, didn't grow stronger or colder. It was a monotonous landscape bereft of everything alive. Feeling his strength slip away as if the strange realm was sucking him dry, the demon started dragging his feet. The vacant place was desperate for life, for souls to inhabit it. He felt the unseen force that tried to tear his soul apart, to scatter the spark of life across its barren fields. His own panting sounded hollow as he fought the growing illness born from his erection towards the strange vacuum of the wasteland. Seeing something lying in the distance, he stopped to examine the situation first. The creature didn't move. Was it a dog? Cautiously he went closer. Soon he recognized the reddish fur and long black legs. "Wilper!" he exclaimed, running towards the figure. Wilper raised her head, and upon seeing him started running as well. The sheer force of her throwing herself at him let Ukuluk topple backwards. The wolf didn't stop pressing him to the ground, showering him with affections. "It's all right, Wilper. What happened?" He hadn't noticed it before, but the color of her pelt was dull, as if a grey veil had been draped over it. Looking down on himself, he saw the same phenomenon. The werewolf raised her nose to sniff and looked at the demon. With desperation she spoke. "No scent." Ukuluk understood at once. That strange realm took away almost every physical sense, and he assumed it was due to the imbalance residing there. "Wilper, you're bleeding," he replied in a worried tone, reaching for her head. The impact from above the waterfall must have hurt her. "Fine." She shrugged. "Luther." The demon's guts crawled at the hopelessness of their situation. Without smell, they couldn't locate the vampire. He could be anywhere. The idea came when he looked to the clouds above. "Can you run?" Wilper nodded, whereupon Ukuluk spread his wings. "This will save us some time." Rising into the air, the demon kept an eye on the four-legged dot below, while he searched the horizon for anything human. Flight was even more tiring than walking. The ground beneath was constantly dragging him from the sky towards the desert. Battered shields, broken swords, and whitened bones started to decorate the landscape. Ukuluk landed to examine the sight, which let his stomach sink. He recognized the weapons of demons as well as gigantic skulls. "War?" Wilper asked with a compassionate look. "No, not really." The demon hadn't been directly involved in the skirmishes at Hale's border, nor had he known that the destruction would turn into a wasteland hungry for everything. It was another proof to him that those who had become humanity's gods had stopped being demons. They had changed into something between demon and human. Hale had always been the kind of demoness the Bible describes, yet the fact that she would kill her own, or those who once had been her own, had shocked many in hell. Those were Hale's attempts to expand her realm. Lucifer repelled her attacks with ease, but it cost many a demon's life. Lucifer had approached her like Hades to take care of the souls in her realm, but Hale was still the same hungry entity keeping the dead and her realm. Rumors said she even attempted to kill the King of Hell to take his throne. The depressing scenery let the demon slow down. He felt his vigilance being stripped away by the oppressive atmosphere around. Like an invisible, faceless beast, it stalked him to take his spark of creation to fill its own void. For a moment the demon feared to be torn apart in mind and body as his sanity wavered. "No!" he yelled at the wasteland, taking a deep yet shaky breath. "You will not take me!" Wilpur's paw clawing softly at his leg made him get a hold of himself. Looking down, he saw her questioning look. "You don't feel it?" Wilpur cocked her head. "No scent?" "That too, but the void, its intention to take our spark of life. I can feel it looming menacingly in every inch of this barren realm." Occult wasn't conscious about his hands running repeatedly through his hair as his distress grew. He felt sick again, but pushed it down. "Occult?" Luther's voice from far away let the demon's thoughts revert back to his original goal. "Damn desert! Come out, you lily-livered scoundrel! I promised I'd kill ya!" "In that case, I'd rather stay away," Occult called back through the desert plain. It was followed by silence, but the demon had found the direction from which his friend called. Wilpur was faster, running ahead, calling her friend's name over and over again. She was too overjoyed to hold back when Luther came into sight. With one leap she forced him to catch her. "Easy, girl," he laughed. Seeing Occult keep his distance, Luther fixed him with an amused stare. He obviously was too happy to see them alive to still be angry about the drop. "Demons shouldn't be cowards. Come and face what's coming to ya." Still reluctant, he went up to the vampire. What happened next let the demon's heart falter. Without a warning, Luther dragged him close into a hug. He always seemed hard and cold, with an air of pompous arrogance surrounding him at all times, keeping everyone else at arm's length. But that hug was just gentle, tender even. "For a moment I thought I'd lost you two." The next time Occult looked into his friend's red eyes, guilty fear shimmered in them, especially with this dooming place. He motioned at the scattered bones and broken weapons. "Where are we, Occult?" "It's the wasteland surrounding here. We must be close." Not wanting to endure the sight any longer, Occult turned to go ahead when a new wave of sickness let him double over. Luther steadied him at once. "Everything all right, pal?" "I'm fine." "Fine. We need to get out of here." Regaining composure, Occult went on. A slight decrease in the temperature told him that their current direction was the one leading to the colder realm. Occult felt the ground gradually turn from soft clay into a frozen mass. Although the cracks resulting from the dryness remained, the wind grew sharper and the turbulence let the fog from above obscure the sight in front of them. The faint outlining of a rock several feet tall let the demon believe they had found the entrance to hell. All three of them stopped dead when the rock moved. With pale blue skin and icy glowing eyes, the man looked down on them. The grey long hair reached to his chest together with the beard, and over his shoulder he held a huge axe. He was clothed like the Vikings of old in leather and skin. Occult felt with a shiver how his gaze examined his soul. "My name is Legion, for we are many." The giant boomed with 1,000 voices speaking at once in resonance. He carried on by pointing at the demon, who felt his hair stand up. "Join us," the voices commanded. Occult was rooted to the spot when the giant reached out to take his essence. It was Wilpur who attacked the hand, burying her teeth deep in the pale flesh. Luther took the demon by the shoulder and dragged him to safety before joining in at the assault. The giant only shook his hand, forcing the wolf to let go. Bullets buried themselves in the massive body. Instead of blood, the wounds leaked black smoke. What is that thing? Luther shouted while dodging the axe, which came down, shattering the ground. The speed with which the giant moved belied his large, stiff body. Luther had barely touched the ground when he had to jump again to avoid the next attack. Tortured souls? Evil spirits? I don't know. The demon tried to make sense of the occurrence. Using her speed, Wulpe climbed to the giant's shoulder to bite her there, but she was brushed off like a fly and fell. Occult reacted on instinct when he shot towards her to catch the wolf. The massive hand reaching for him missed the demon by only a hair length. One of the giant's feet already aimed for the demon where he planned to land. Occult, watch out! Luther was already on his way to help, but the axe cut off his path. The force of the impact sent chunks of rock together with the vampire flying. A heavy thud announced the impact, causing Occult to look into his friend's direction. Luther didn't move. The demon let Wulpe down, who ran to her friend at once. The giant was taking aim to mow her down as well when Occult stepped forth, gathering all the courage he could muster. "You want me, right?" He yelled at the large man. The icy eyes cut to the demon before the body followed. "We want you, Occult." The eerie call of the dead sounded again. Occult understood now. Those were the souls of those who had died in the Wasteland in battle. They had turned into one entity that scavenged the realm for lost souls. Slowly the giant approached, the eyes as hungry as the landscape around. He ignored the sensation of his blood running cold when he imagined what kind of fate it was that had taken hold of those demons and giants. "Why do you want me?" His attempt to keep his voice steady failed as he felt the coldness of the entity come closer. "Without warriors there can be no fight. Nothing shall pass the border." "That behind you is the border, I imagine." The giant didn't answer. With terror the demon saw the hand reach for him, and with it came the sensation of the void around, pulling him apart. He only hoped his friends would use the opportunity to get to here. His legs started to tremble and he closed his eyes as he turned away from his fate. The sound of a gun let him jump as his eyes slipped open. The giant had stopped amidst his movement and fell to the ground. Luther still held the smoking gun, which had aimed at the entity's head. What kind of stupidity was that? Didn't you want to see your ancient friend again? Occult was stunned by the ferocity as well as the shock of being saved like that. "I thought you..." He gestured towards the vampire who was holstering his gun. "I mean, you fell. I thought this was it. And that's enough reason to drown yourself in hopelessness." Luther gave the demon a disapproving stare. "Let's get out of here. He won't sleep for long." Occult saw his friend flinch when he wanted to walk in the usual manner. "You are hurt." "It's just a rib. It will heal." Despite the easygoing explanation, the vampire took the offered support and leaned a bit on the demon. Occult in turn relied on the vampire to steady him until the hungry claws of the Wasteland let go of his soul. He would have liked to run and never stop. Luther, on the other hand, needed to walk at a slower pace. Upon crossing the border to Hale, they had to wade through a broad river. Occult was unsure if it was the same river to which the waterfall led or a new one. With relief he felt how the sensation of sickness grew less in his stomach. A fence made of sharpened wooden stakes marked the border. The wind freshened up at once and ice and snow covered the ground. The entrance of a cave yawned in front of them behind the river. Occult swallowed and motioned for the others to follow. Luther used a moment of peace to sit down when they had entered. The sounds of dripping water to the ground filled the cave. The walls were partly made of stone and partly of thick blue ice as smooth as velvet. Their breaths came in small clouds, and the hard ground was covered in gravel, sand and pebbles. The soft crunching beneath their feet sounded unnaturally loud and increased the demon's vigilance with each step he took. His dwindling sanity had been replaced by an uncontrollable flight-or-fight mode. After a bit of rest, Luther dragged himself back to his feet. He shot Okuluk a look of confusion mingled with worry. What's wrong? Nothing. Let's just get on. Okuluk wasn't a good liar. He could see the proof in Luther's face. The vampire had picked up on the demon's strange tenseness where there usually was soft-spoken caution. He tried to suppress it to his best ability, but the subtle tremble in his body wouldn't just go away because he told himself to keep calm. The ice grew thicker and bluer the farther they had proceeded. The dripping grew less and was replaced by a biting wind. It was moaning and whistling through the cave. The tunnel started to grow wider into a larger cave. Far ahead, the corpse gates appeared. Garmsh, Hale's dog, was lying in front of the large gates made of bones. He seemed to sleep, but Okuluk knew that the gates of every underworld were always guarded heavily. The beast had no eyes, and the chain was not linked to a collar but the dog's own flesh. The demon felt himself shudder from the icy darkness that was all around. "You have a bone, Okuluk? Because I don't think he will be as friendly as Cerberus." "He definitely won't." Carefully they tiptoed closer to the dog. Wulper was the first to reach the gates without being noticed. The demon followed to help push open the door. He wondered why Garmsh didn't notice them. Without a sound, one of the gates swung open to reveal a large hall. A large, long table in the middle was filled with food, but the hall was grey and gloomy, and the food was scarce and meager. Food? Wulper wondered. Hale's realm is not hell. She doesn't necessarily torture souls. She only gathers them. Don't eat from her feast. She will keep you here if you do. Okuluk had barely finished the sentence when behind him Garmsh suddenly yowled in alarm. He had smelled Luther. Garmsh only smelled dead, new arrivals, and his friends seemed to fall into that category. Sprinting through the gate, they shut it before Garmsh could do anything else. Deathly silence filled the hall. Misfortune defined the place in which the dead dined and slept. Countless hallways led out of the hall. Okuluk made haste to follow any one of them, when from the middle of the room a woman called. "It has been eons since the last new arrival." "Here." The demon only muttered as he struggled to breathe. "Okuluk." She smiled cruelly as she got up from her seat. Her eyes burned vengefully at him. He had somehow hoped to just slip through her realm without her noticing it. Hale had always been ill-tempered. She seemed to hate everyone, even the other demons who had become gods, and she still seemed to resent Lucifer for not giving her the souls in his care. Okuluk had played right into her hands, delivering himself on a silver platter. Shit.